live now, so if you're not on mute, go ahead and please mute.
Houston Public Works is responsible for the daily tasks you may take for granted. You may not notice us, but we work around the clock to support you. We are the foundation for life in Houston. Houston Water distributes enough fresh water to fill the Astrodome 4 times a day. Transportation and drainage operations handles 16,000 miles of streets. Over 1 million signs and street names and thousands of drains. The Houston Permitting Center regulates hundreds of projects so you can work, play, and live safely. Customer Account Services ensures 2.1 million people have access to safe drinking water with efficiency, accuracy, and flexibility. Capital Projects manages the critical improvements that make Houston better every single day. Houston is always moving towards growth, innovation, and progress. We are the largest, most diverse public works organization in the country. We are one team with one purpose. Together, we create a strong foundation for Houston to thrive.
Good evening, and thank you for participating in our design update meeting today. My name is Kenya Williams with Houston Public Works. The goal of today's meeting is to keep you informed about the design updates for the Westheimer, Elgin, Montrose to Main Paving and Drainage project. There will be a time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation, so please hold all questions until the end of this presentation. Thank you. It is with great pleasure to introduce your phenomenal Councilmember Abby Kamen to say a few words about this project. Councilmember Kamen.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. Full disclaimer, I am at West Gray Multi-Service Center. There's a room full of residents and neighborhood leaders right now. I'm awkwardly in the room next to them on a computer for sound purposes, but I did want to recognize that this is incredible that we're doing this hybrid meeting, both in person and online. So to everyone that made that possible with the department, thank you. And thank you to all the residents that are with us. I also wanted to thank, we have some of our neighborhood leaders, both from the super neighborhoods, civic club leaders, and from our Montrose TERS, and I'm sure I'm leaving some out that are in the room with us, and a big thank you and recognition. There's a list, just so you all know, of about 20 to 30 city employees that aren't just here with us today, but are also working on this effort right now. Too many to name them all, but you have from Houston Public Works and the planning department, but from Public Works, our capital projects and TDO, transportation and drainage operations groups, also from planning. So to everyone involved, thank you so much, especially Michael already, David Fields, and y'all's entire teams. You also have in the room next door to me our Department of Neighborhoods with Jack Valinsky, and from Councilmember Alcorn, one of our at-large members that I work very closely with, her staff as well. So it's great to have everyone together. And I really quickly wanted to explain some of what we're doing tonight and why it's so important to have you involved. We are doing everything we can to revive the Lower Westheimer paving and drainage project. It is so desperately needed and long overdue. The challenge has been the funding. So previously, I think it used to be on the CIP. It was moved off of the CIP because there just wasn't the dollars for it. And one of the things that we've been trying to do is leverage dollars with all of the other levels of government to go after any and all funding opportunities, leaving no stone unturned to try to revive and bring to the forefront this critical infrastructure project that has to do with safety, mobility, and just quality of life for one of the main corridors in District C. So with that, I wanted to thank you all, because the public engagement part of this helps us, one, not only with important feedback, but also check a really important box as we seek to apply for grant funding and work with other jurisdictions on this project. I do want to say that right now, we still do not have the funding for this, but we are going to keep at it. And that's why, again, tonight and all of the other engagement opportunities are so important. So with that, again, I just want to say how appreciative I am. We have heard residents loud and clear that this matters, and the departments are doing everything they can to work with us to see this through. So with that, I will hand it off. And my office, of course, remains ready and available to all of you for whatever your needs are.
Thank you, Councilmember Kamen. Now I would like to introduce our Assistant Director for Capital Projects, Ms. Tanu Harmeth, to provide the project objectives to you. Tanu?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tanu Hiremot, and I'm super excited to be here with you all to share this project information with you. So the main goals of this project is to provide, promote, and improve safety, multimodal transportation, and access to local businesses. And we're going to do this while improving your infrastructure and preserving your local culture and character. And there's a project team that's worked diligently to meet these goals and objectives, and I'm very, very proud to introduce them. From City of Houston, we have our project manager, Tim Wu, and Sherry Kang, who's our sector lead. Our engineering consultants on this one is Walter P. Moore, and from their team, we have Rachel Raybelch, Edwin Frederick, and Eric Coe. With that, I turn it back to you, Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's talk about this project, the design updates, and the Walkable Places program as it relates to this project. Please hold all questions until the end of this presentation. This is a paving project with an estimated budget of $25 million. It is currently in the design phase, and the project manager is Tim Vu. Tim is the project manager for this project, and he will now share the current design updates with you. Take it away, Tim.
Thank you, Kenya. Good evening, everyone. As Kenya mentioned, my name is Tim Vu. I am the city's project manager on this project. I will be providing you with updates from a preliminary design phase. I am going to share with you the recommended improvements that was developed during this phase and show you what some of the features conceptually look like along this corridor, and also provide you with a current project timeline. Improvements proposed on this project include new lane configurations along Westheimer and replacing the existing asphalt pavement with new concrete pavement. We are proposing wider sidewalks along Westheimer while keeping Elgin the same width. Along Westheimer, we are proposing pedestrian and bike crossings with median refuge at key intersections to enhance street walkability. In coordination with Metro, some bus stops will be consolidated and some will be relocated from near side to far side of the intersections. These and other features which will be discussed later will help Metro accommodate their boost program along this corridor. Other improvements will include upgrading the traffic signals, installing new streetlights, a new storm sewer system, and upsizing the water lines within the project limits. This slide shows the typical existing and proposed cross sections along the Westheimer corridor. The existing deteriorated asphalt pavement will be replaced with concrete pavement. The narrow substandard 4 lanes will be reconfigured to 2 lanes with a non-continuous center lane. The added center lane will allow cars to turn left to access driveways without impacting traffic and Metro's bus route. We will also widen the sidewalks that are currently substandard to 6 feet to 8 feet wide along this corridor. For Elgin, between Milam and Main, the railroad configuration will remain the same. The pavement is proposed to be reconstructed to concrete roadway with new traffic signals at Travis, and we are replacing the water lines and the storm sewers within this limit. This is a proposed schematic layout of Westheimer starting at Montrose and moving east. Westheimer transitions from 5 lanes to 4 lanes at Crocker. Then we transition to a 2-lane with a dedicated 2-way left turn center lane. There are a few features such as the dedicated bus through lane at Montrose, the closure of the vehicular through traffic at Stanford intersection, and the pedestrian crosswalks that are shown here. I'm going to touch upon these features more in depth in later slides. As we continue east, the center lane will transition to dedicated left turns at intersections. And as we move toward Bagby, the Bagby intersection, we transition to a 4-lane divided roadway to align with Elgin. On Elgin, the lane configuration will not change except the lane width. The outside lane width will be increased to 11 feet instead of 10 feet, and the left turn lane will be reduced to 10 feet. This is to accommodate the bus traffic. So now I want to get into the details of the features from the proposed schematic plan. In support of transit and Metro Boost, we are proposing a dedicated lane for bus through traffic at Montrose in both directions as shown here. Other vehicles must use this lane for right turn only. On the example on the left is a picture of what it looks like in the Houston downtown area. In coordination with Metro, bus stops will be discontinued at Whitney and Helena. Bus stops will be relocated to far side stops at Stanford and also westbound at Bagby. There will be no changes in location for the bus stops at Montrose and Taft. Next, we want to discuss the pedestrian bike crossing features. At Crocker, we want to keep the mid-block crossing that is currently there with a raised crosswalk and signage. The picture on the left is an example of what the crossing may look like. Moving east to Stanford, to support the Houston bike plan and bike route along Stanford, we are proposing to close vehicular through traffic at the intersection. Vehicles on Westheimer are restricted from turning left onto Stanford. Vehicles on Stanford can only turn right onto Westheimer. This picture provides an example of a rendering if you stood at the south end of Stanford looking north. Here's another example of a location that's actually in Houston. That gives you a better idea of what it looks like. Moving further east along the Westheimer corridor, we will also provide pedestrian crossings with median refuge at Whitney, Mason, and Helena. Traffic signals will be upgraded to current standard at existing signalized intersections of Montrose, Taft, and Travis. We will have new poles, longer mast arms, and new traffic control panels. Centerpoint would also replace their street lights within the project limits, which is pretty typical for street reconstruction projects. For storm sewer improvements, we are proposing 3 foot by 3 foot up to 5 foot by 5 foot storm boxes along Westheimer and Elgin to replace the existing 24-inch and 54-inch storm sewers. And finally, we will upgrade 8-inch water lines to 12-inch water lines along both Westheimer and Elgin. Project timelines. Right now, we are at the conclusion of the preliminary design phase. We plan to start final design in the upcoming months and hope to complete design by summer of 2024. Construction, as the council members mentioned, is currently not scheduled yet, due in part that we're still pursuing federal grants and the other funding opportunities we're also exploring. And with that, this concludes my presentation. I would now concede back to Kenya for the next stage of the presentation.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, so here to talk about the Walkable Places program as it pertains to this project are David Fields and Mushin Fong with the Planning and Development Department. David and Mushin?
Thanks so much, Kenya, and welcome everybody, both in the room and virtually. You just heard all about the Lower Westheimer design for within the right-of-way itself. Now we want to talk to you a little bit about the opportunities that if the roadway is going to be changing, what can happen behind the curb line, what can happen with different development proposals and different programs that the city has to offer. We've been working around the city on a program called Walkable Places, and I'm going to turn it over to Mushin Fang from the Transportation Planning Division to walk you through all of those different programs and options. Mushin?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is Mushin Fang with City of Houston Planning Department Transportation Planning Subdivision. This evening, I would like to introduce a few city programs that the property owners and stakeholders could utilize to further promote the walkability along Lower Westheimer. They are the Walkable Place Street designation, which promotes pedestrian-friendly development on private property, and 3 parking management programs. Special parking area allows alternative of street parking standards on private property. Parking benefit district and community parking program manage the on-street parking along the designated streets. The Walkable Place Street designation allows property owners and City of Houston to create customizable rules to guide new development and redevelopment on private properties within the city limit. This will only apply to new development and redevelopment. They will not impact the existing developments. Walkable place may be designated on any streets within the city limits and established with unique planning standards to adjust the neighborhood characteristics, as long as the designation meets the 5 guiding principles. They are be sensitive to local context, ensure walkable urban form, promote safe multimodal transportation, create a pleasant experience, and attain local support. Each designated walkable place should be established with 5 categories of planning standards. For example, if we designate Lower Westheimer as a walkable place street, we could establish minimum 20 feet wide pedestrian realm with 8 feet wide unobstructed sidewalk and 4 feet safety buffer. The current distance between the bed of curb and the property line along Lower Westheimer varies from 10 feet to 15 feet. If Lower Westheimer is designated as a walkable place street, the adjacent property owner only needs to set back the ground floor building to 5 feet to preserve the 20 feet pedestrian realm, and the upper floors can be built up to the property line. With this standard, the property owner will get more buildable areas. In return, they are required to improve the pedestrian realm. Next slide, yes, and also meet certain building design standards. For example, for single-family residential developments, they are required to have the building fronting facing the street with a maximum 48-inch of non-opaque fence. For the non-single-family residential development, at least 50% of ground floor facade are required to install windows and doors to increase the interaction between pedestrians and adjacent development and help keep eyes on the street. In addition, to provide safe environment, auto-related uses are not allowed within the pedestrian realm, and parking lots are required to be located on the side or behind the new buildings. In brief, by creating a built environment that makes walking, biking, and taking public transit safe and convenient, the Walkable Places program will further enhance the walkability of Lower Westheimer. If the stakeholders support the Walkable Places program designation along Lower Westheimer, the planning department could help to facilitate the designation process. In addition to the Walkable Place program, the property owners, residents, and management entity can also utilize 3 parking management programs to alleviate the parking challenge in the area. A special parking area can be designated by a management entity such as management district or TERS to establish customizable off-street parking standards, such as reduced parking spaces or parking spaces at farther distance. And SPA can be designated simultaneously with a walkable place street. Residents can also apply to create a parking benefit district and or community parking program. If the application is approved, the program will be managed by Administration Regulatory Affairs Department. Specifically, within a parking benefit district, the parking meters will be installed along the designated streets. 60% of the meter revenue will contribute to the district and to enhance the quality of life and promote walking, biking, and the use of public transit. The community parking program allows selling curbside parking permits to both residents and commercial property occupants. These permits are exempt from the time limit. So far, Museum District, Midtown, Washington Avenue have utilized these programs to address their parking challenge. We strongly encourage you to consider whether these programs are a good fit for your community. For more details about the programs, please check the project website and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. With that said, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mushin. As Mushin stated, please visit engagehouston.org and click on the Westheimer project page in street projects. There, you will find additional information and receive project updates when you subscribe. Please share this site with your network. The project page will give you the most up-to-date information. Be sure to subscribe to the project page to receive the latest and greatest information about the project via email. I want to thank council members Kamen and Robinson for their support today. Thanks to David and Mushin with planning for their support, and to the awesome project team for their participation today. Thank you to all of you for joining us to receive these important design updates. Thank you for your time and attention. Please remember to share what you heard today with your friends and neighbors, and remember to visit engagehouston.org if you have any questions, comments, or to receive project updates. And now it's time. Q&A time. Being present has its benefits because you will get your questions answered in real time by the fantastic project team. Take advantage now and ask away. The project team is here to answer all of your questions. At this time, I would like to introduce you to Timothy Williams with the fabulous public engagement team who will moderate the Q&A session for us. Take it away, Tim.
I certainly will, and thank you very much, Kenya. Yes, good evening, everyone. This is the Q&A portion of our meeting. It's your opportunity to engage and provide us with questions and comments that are related to this project. We'd certainly love to hear from you, and we welcome the feedback. Tonight's meeting, as you know, is a hybrid meeting, which means that we have virtual attendees and in-person attendees as well. The instructions for submitting questions and comments for both groups are now on the screen. For those of you attending virtually, first select Q&A on the right side of the screen. It's the bubble with the question mark in the middle. Second, type your question in the compose box and then select send. You can remain anonymous by selecting ask anonymously. For those of you who are in person at the West Gray Multi-Service Center, please submit your questions and comments via the blue comment cards that are now being made available to you by our staff. We encourage you to write your name and email address on the cards so that we can continue to engage with you. However, that particular information, as well as your physical address and phone number, is optional. So go ahead and begin submitting now. As those questions are coming in, please note that this marks the beginning of the Q&A process. If you have any questions or comments beyond today's meeting, you can share them by visiting us at engagehouston.org. Go to the project page, and there at the bottom, you can submit your question or comment, and we'll be sure to follow up with you. I'd also like to remind you that all of tonight's meeting material is available on the site. Okay, I see it. Okay. Thank you. And the questions are now coming in. First question, project team. Thank you for presenting this project. Living only 2 blocks south of the project area, can you tell me what sort of mitigation efforts will be made for traffic that might leak into the neighborhood during construction? And I'll submit that question to the project team. And I'm sure we have project teams on standby ready to knock that question out. Please go ahead. You may be on mute, whoever is responding. You may please unmute and go ahead and respond to that question.
Well, regarding this project, Rachel, do you want to answer this question at all? Because it doesn't really pertain to our project as far as cars that are going into the neighborhood.
Okay. Okay. So that's not an issue that they would be concerned with for this project. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. The next question. The area east of Montrose on Westheimer has outside lanes that are rendered nearly undrivable due to poor conditions of the concrete there. Is the plan to still keep Westheimer there a 4-lane road?
Westheimer east of Montrose is the area that we are discussing today. So I'm not sure if they meant east of Montrose or west of Montrose. But
Well, they submitted, yes, they submitted
you
east, so
see what I'm
can
saying?
just
So
answer that part,
it's
right.
going to be what we showed in the presentation, which is 1 lane in each direction with a center turn lane,
Okay,
not
thank
4
you.
lanes.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What can be done to prevent utility companies and contractors from digging holes on the new street pavement? Most streets in Montrose are poorly patched up by these companies.
This is a good question. Thank you for bringing it up to us. But this project team is not going to be able to address this. But what we're going to do, we're going to take this question back to our Houston Permit Center, the proper group, for them to address for that.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. The next question. What is the plan to reduce harm to businesses during construction?
Primarily, we create a traffic control plan that maintains access to those businesses. But construction is can create a lot of congestion. So I am sure there will be some disruption. But the idea is to keep access to the businesses as much as possible.
Gotcha. Thank you. The next question. How would utilizing parking meters on Westheimer work?
There are no parking meters or on-street parking planned for this section of Westheimer.
Okay, gotcha. The next question. Can some driveways be closed or modified as part of this design? That would seem to add to safety for people walking and biking here.
There are there have been some proposals to close some driveways on along Westheimer. However, we cannot deny somebody access to their property. So they will still have a driveway access even if we are proposing to close some driveways.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. The next question is, how does the, 48-inch fence protect homeowners? How does the 48-inch fence protect homeowners?
There is no 48-inch fence proposed on this project. They may be confusing the proposed and existing typical sections that were shown earlier, and that was just a snippet of existing field conditions that we've seen in the past, but there is no fence proposed on this project.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. The next question is, there appears to be no drainage upgrade planned for Westheimer, Elgin for this project after Helena eastbound for a few blocks. Why is this? Does current drainage meet or exceed standards?
Can you repeat that for me again?
Sure, no problem. No problem. There appears to be no drainage upgrade planned for Westheimer/Elgin after Helena Street eastbound for a few blocks. So after Helena Street eastbound for a few blocks, they don't see that there's been any plans to upgrade the drainage, and they're wanting to know why that is and if it currently meets or exceeds the drainage standards.
That would be correct. We did a drainage study, and that is it stops, I guess, at Helena or just past Helena and ties into the existing system, which was deemed adequate.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to add on to that. That existing storm sewer were already upgraded from the previous project not too long ago. So that's the reason why we're doing from the Montrose to Helena, and after Helena, we're tying to that existing
pipe, which has the capacity.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. The next question is, some of the content of tonight's presentations is on the website in the form of exhibits, but will the full schematic design update and walkable communities presentations be available on the website after this meeting? And I can answer that question for you. The answer is yes. So after tonight, this information, the entire presentation, and all of the exhibits that you've seen in the hallway and everything that we have will be posted to the website. And that's usually done within 24 hours of the community meeting. Okay, the next question is, why not have the bus pull off as in the original Lower Westheimer design? Why not have the bus pull off as in the original Lower Westheimer design?
We talked to Metro, and this Westheimer has been designated a boost line, and they felt that they could not keep their service on time with bus pull-offs and one lane in each direction. So those bus pull-offs were eliminated.
Okay, thank you. The next question, why is there only one protected pedestrian crossing? Why only one protected pedestrian crossing?
There is more than one protected pedestrian crossing.
Okay.
I'm not sure where what that question is referring to. We could get some clarification on that.
Okay, gotcha. So for now, there is more than one. And so whoever submitted that question, please feel free to resubmit and clarify or specify what it is that you're referencing. The next question, has heat island mitigation been considered and incorporated into this plan? Particularly the importance of the street trees. Will street trees be given adequate right-of-way? Will street trees be given adequate right-of-way? Street trees need adequate space for air to roots and water. All too often, expanded sidewalk width comes at the expense of street trees. So they're asking about the trees in the street area, the plan for those.
I would say that that is something that we are going to look in the next phase of the design as far as how many, where, and how they would be accommodated.
Okay. And the next question, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Was that clarification? Go ahead, Sherry.
Yeah, I want to add a little bit on this. You know, we have the limited right of way. We have the limited space behind the curb for the tree, for the sidewalks, and also for the space, you know, for all the utilities, for the poles. So there's a balance we have to consider as well. And we are having the tree experts on board with our EOR. So we'll take a look at that in the detailed design next phase. But I want to ask for everybody kind of consider the situation, the room limitation there. And there's a balance we have to consider as a project design team. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. And this question says, where are the managed protected lanes and road space for bikes and metro buses? Bikers are people too. My friend and I are university students at Rice and are saddened by the lack of infrastructure plans for cyclists. So I'll read it again. It says, where are the managed protected lanes and road space for bikes and metro buses?
Well, the metro buses are in the main lane. Okay, so they'll be traveling in the main lanes. There is no infrastructure provided for bikes along Westheimer. I believe the bike plan has those routes off of Westheimer for people to go in the east-west direction. But there are some bike amenities, Stanford in particular, where we're protecting cyclists in a north-south direction.
Okay,
I believe
gotcha.
Taft is also on the bike plan.
Okay, Thank you. Next question. How steep are the planned raised crosswalks? How steep are the planned raised crosswalks? There is an unfortunate tendency for raised crosswalks to have such a shallow gradient that they do not significantly slow traffic. I'm thinking of the recent raised intersection at Hawthorne and Woodhead as an example of a raised intersection with an insufficient gradient. So they wanted to know how steep are the planned raised crosswalks.
They will be designed to stand to MUTCD standards, which are the guidelines for street design.
Okay, so they will be constructed to design standard.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, next question. Why have you chosen not to relocate the bus stops at Montrose and Taft to Far Side? As I believe it is part of Boost standards. Is Metro in accord with this plan? Since you will be seeking funding sources from multiple sources, why are you not including the segment from Shepherd to Montrose, which has similar needs and characteristics? Okay, actually, we have someone who's gonna take that question. Go ahead.
So the question about the far side. Sorry about that. The question about the far side stops at Montrose, while that is the standard for Boost, there are certain occasions where it doesn't work out. If you're going westbound on Westheimer, when you get to the far side of Montrose, that curb is one very long driveway without a whole lot of space to fit a whole bus, even if it was closed. The closest stop would need to be another block past, which makes the transfer point very difficult for bus riders. We worked with Metro on this and they agreed that near side there would make more sense. On the second question about what about looking at a design further west all the way to Shepherd, we are looking to see as we develop these plans where we can extend, where we can work with partners. This is just the first phase, and a longer term Westheimer design we're hoping will be in the future.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next question is, this project seems to have been a topic for a few years now. How long before you think funds will be obtained? Is there any idea? And I believe they're referring to actual construction at this point.
That would be
So
a
I'm just-
hard question to answer because like we're pursuing it, we cannot give you an exact date and time. But we are hopeful that once these projects are done and we have enough groundwork completed, we will be able to give you a better answer. But right now, we cannot anticipate when the funds will be in.
Okay, thank you. The next question is the walkability project automatically tied to the lower Westheimer paving, or does that need a separate approval? Is the walkability project automatically tied to the lower Westheimer paving, or does that need a separate approval? Will the walkability project require modifications to private property? We have someone who's going to take that question. Nixie?
Yes, I would like to answer this question. Walkable Places program is not automatically applied to Lower Westheimer. It's a program subject to the property owners. You initiate the application. If you think this is a good fit for Lower Westheimer corridor, please reach out to the planning department. We will be able to help you to facilitate the designation process. But before it's officially designated, the walkable place rules will not apply to the property along Lower Westheimer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mixon. Okay. The next question is, would you consider any pedestrian crosswalk improvements at Grant Street at Westheimer Road? I've noticed a lot of pedestrians cross here, especially with the new Montrose collective development. So they're referencing the intersection there at Grant Street and Westheimer Road.
This would be providing what the city would consider to be a mid-block crossing, and those aren't ideal for pedestrian safety. So we would encourage people to cross at Montrose, as it's not that far from Grant Street, or if they so wish, they could go down to the mid-block crossing just east of Crocker Street. But we would not suggest people crossing Westheimer at Grant.
Gotcha. Thank you. The next question is, could the 12-foot turn lane be reduced to further improve pedestrian cycling infrastructure? Could the 12-foot turn lane be reduced to further improve pedestrian cycling infrastructure? Could the 4-lane section be similar to the 3-lane so a protected bike lane could be added? Will signals prioritize buses like a boost corridor? It's a pretty loaded question there. We have David's going to answer that. Go ahead.
So the sidewalks that you'll see in the plans now meet all our standard 6 to 8 feet minimum widths. So adding more, could do it. It doesn't really give a much more robust pedestrian realm because we're already meeting the standard. Also, that the lane widths in the 3-lane section are pretty tight already. I want to say it's 11 and 10. So, there's not much more to give there. On the further east section, the question was, could we take away the lane and make it comparable? The pedestrian realm is even wider over there, so we have the space we need.
Thank you, David. Okay, the next question is, at what point in the design process will full design packages be made available to the public? If they will not, how does the city suggest developers contemplating projects along Montrose plan around this city project?
Typically, when we finish the final design stage, that is when the project is available. We're going to have Engage Houston constantly update you on the design in the interim, but we do not make it public until the documents are final.
Thank you.
In other words, we don't publish work in progress.
Okay. Thank you, Tanu. And also, we want to encourage everyone to go to the website, engagehouston.org, and go to the project page for Westheimer and Elgin. Subscribe to that page, and you will get all automatic notifications as they are made for this project. So you'll have that information. You'll see the updated specifications, and you'll be able to see that the project has concluded design and is going into the next phase. Okay. The next question is, Kenmore raised crosswalks, I guess, can it be included at all key intersections? Can the improvements to Stanford include signalization and raised crosswalks? With the 82 Westheimer, I'm sorry, the question is a little hard to read. With the 82 Westheimer highest ridership and loss of lanes, why is more not being done to prioritize public transit on this route? The bus will be stuck in traffic. Okay, that sounds like more of a metro question, but I'll toss that to the project team if anyone has a response for that one. Okay, yeah, that's more. Oh, go ahead.
As far as the crosswalks, I can address that. The one at Crocker that's raised is a mid-block crossing, and we're trying to emphasize that location. At the other locations, there are raised medians in that roughly that same area where the center turn lane is along most of the street. So it's got a curb protection on either side, creating a median refuge in the middle of the street for pedestrians that are crossing. So I can answer the crosswalk question.
Gotcha. Thank you, Rachel. And David's going to go ahead and jump in and take the second half of that portion. Go ahead, David.
Right, and for the Bus corridors, right now, the cross-section is one lane in each direction with a center turn lane. To give a dedicated bus lane would mean eating into the pedestrian realm. And from the planning part of the process, it was very clear from the community that the highest priority was a significant sidewalk realm. So when you have to make trade-offs in right-of-way, in this section, a wider pedestrian realm was what the community had asked for.
Thank you, David. Okay, and the next question is, are you looking into right-of-way? The right-of-way corner takes to add more space for improved ramps, especially at the locations where median refuges are proposed. Whitney Street, Mason Street, Helena Street. Are you looking into reducing curb radii to meet IDM standards? The Bagby at Elgin intersection in particular has large they typed radio that make pedestrian crossings longer, but I believe they meant radii for that as well.
The Bagby and Elgin intersection's not in the project limits, but we try not to take right of way where it's not needed, but the curb ramps will be upgraded to meet standards, and I mean that's part of the project. So, but we if we have to, it would be considered, but to make that a priority, but we will try not to do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question is, what are the determining factors that will add the project to the CIP? Why was this project taken out of the previous CIP? Can this project be added to the CIP before the final design is completed? And how long will construction take to be completed on this project?
The first half of that about the CIP, it is a very long and elaborate process. The CIP programs are determined on need base, and it's not as simple as putting a project on there and waiting in the line. It's mostly prioritized based on needs. They have cost benefit ratio analysis that's being done. Some other factors like events like Atlas 14, they impacted a lot of our CIP projects because the requirements changed and these projects became bigger, where we need to address more issues than we previously anticipated. So those are some of the factors that force us to change the schedule on a CIP project or move it further along. So the answer to that is that city is working on an overall master plan where we are trying to analyze existing conditions of for the storm, for the other assets, and do an analysis. And CIP program is constantly going to be developing dynamically with relation to that. But in relation to the construction duration, I think I'm going to refer this to our consultants. What do you anticipate the duration to be, if you can answer that question?
As of right now, my estimate would be 18 months.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, and the next question is, I'm very excited to see this plan. I bought in Montrose because it is walkable, buildable, and I love seeing that characteristic reinforced. I fully support this project. Question, could a bike pedestrian light be added at the Stanford intersection as well, or at the raised crosswalk nearby? With current light timings, it can be hard to cross at high traffic times. So the first question is, could a bike pedestrian light be added at the Stanford intersection? And the second half is, what is the proposed speed limit after redesign?
I don't think that a signal can be added at Stanford. We would need to do a in-depth traffic study to determine that, but I don't think so, not with the information we have. And what was the other part of the question?
Yes, it had to do with the speed limit. What
Oh,
was
the
the
speed
proposed
limit,
speed limit right after design?
I believe 35.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank Tiff, my supervisor, for an assist on that question. She helped me with that one. Thanks, Tiff. So the next question is, I live on Stanford and Fargo. I value safe multimodal roads and transit use. I bike/bus to work. Have you all considered more pedestrian islands, more traffic calming, a dedicated lane for the 82 bus route, which is the most utilized bus route in the entire state? And this is just what's stated in the question, and more protected raised crosswalks. Westheimer is currently a speedway. If you all repair the road, what will be done to prevent faster driving and unsafe driving? So we have David's gonna go ahead and jump in and take that question for us. Go ahead.
Yeah, so hopefully by now you've seen the full corridor design with the pedestrian islands, with the raised crosswalk, with one lane in each direction instead of 1.5 lanes in each direction. All of these things contribute to traffic calming. The wider pedestrian realm makes this a much more multimodal corridor. So exactly for the ways that you're asking for, we think this design has gotten us there. And we appreciate that you're a multimodal resident.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. Okay, and we follow up on the earlier question that was submitted. To clarify on my earlier question about the one protected pedestrian crossing, I meant the grade segregated elevated crossing at Crocker and Westheimer. Why is there only one of those? Sorry for the confusion.
The city has been emphasizing that,
So
or
they
trying,
specified a grade segregated elevated crossing at Crocker and Westheimer. And they're wanting to know why there's only one of those. Okay, so David's going to take that one for us. Give me 1 second.
So I think you're talking about the raised crosswalk at Crocker, which is a design for kind of an offset, non-traditional crossing, not directly at an intersection. But what you'll see is much more significant improved crossings at many locations, like the one with the pedestrian island, the one, and there are a couple all up and down, so that you'll see a lot of different treatments to help that pedestrian connection. What we try to do instead of using one design everywhere is to find the right design for each location.
Okay, thank you, David. The next question is, the proposed redesign of the Lower Westheimer. Sorry, let me repeat that. The proposed redesign of the Lower Westheimer Street is an improvement on the current state of the street. I would like to ask though, if Houston Public Works is looking at a design where the entire Lower Westheimer portion is entirely blocked to through traffic and only pedestrians, bikers, or residents along the corridor are allowed to traverse, if Houston Public Works is looking at a design where the entire Lower Westheimer portion is entirely blocked to through traffic and only pedestrians, bikers, or residents along the corridor are allowed to traverse, if yes, why wasn't that presented today? If not, will you look into it? Okay, please go ahead, David.
So Westheimer is a key corridor for the entire community. We believe in multimodal access, accessing all of these, the businesses, all of the individual side streets. So what the design has resulted in is something that allows people to walk, to drive, to take the bus, so that there is full access. At this time, a design that closes that access and no longer makes it and limits it to walking and transit only is not currently under consideration.
All right, thank you very much, David. And with that, that was the final question for tonight's portion of the Q&A meeting. But definitely like to thank all of those who came in and supported this meeting. We'd like to thank District C, again, Councilmember Abby Kamen and the District C staff. We'd like to thank the amazing project team, the public engagement team, the planning department for being here with us this evening, and certainly to you, the citizens. We definitely had a great turnout for this meeting, and we'd like to thank you all for that. And we'd like to remind you that, again, though this portion is ending today, you can continue to engage with us. And if you look down the screen, you can submit your questions to buildforward@houstontx.gov, or you can go to engagehouston.org. And with that, thank you all and have a great night.